Have you ever loved someone so much that you were willing to forgive even the unforgivable? Have you ever trusted so blindly that you couldn't see the betrayal walking right beside you? This story will make you question the true value of love, loyalty, and how far people are willing to go for money. It's not just about betrayal, it's about dignity, silence, and a truth so powerful that it doesn't need to scream to be heard. Hit the like button if you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, because what you're about to hear might change how you see people forever. Eleanor had always lived in the shadow of her husband's empire. Nicholas Davenport wasn't just a man, he was a tech giant, the brain behind the world's most revolutionary AI chipsets, a billionaire who built his legacy from scratch. But behind every interview, every Forbes cover, stood Eleanor, always smiling, always elegant, always quiet. To the world, she was the perfect wife. To Nicholas, she was convenient. Her heart had stopped trying to love him years ago, and her eyes had slowly started drifting towards someone else. Someone younger, hungrier, and far more attentive. That someone was Daniel, Nicholas's personal assistant. Daniel had charm and knew how to play the long game. He whispered dreams into Eleanor's ears, promises of freedom, a life without judgment, without being just a trophy. She began to believe him, and when Nicholas died suddenly, heart attack, they said, Eleanor didn't grieve. She wore black, she cried in public, but inside, she was already planning her future. A future with Daniel, a future with the money. But Nicholas, despite being cold and emotionally absent, had always been 2 steps ahead of everyone, even in death. On the morning after the funeral, Eleanor and Daniel walked into the Royal Trust Bank with confident steps. The bank manager, Mr. Coleman, greeted them solemnly. "Mrs. Davenport, I understand this must be difficult." Eleanor gave a rehearsed sigh. "Yes, but there are things that need to be handled. I'm here to access Nicholas's main account." Daniel squeezed her hand beneath the desk. Coleman nodded. "Of course, but just a moment." Mr. Davenport left very specific instructions. A slight wrinkle of concern flashed across Eleanor's forehead. Instructions. Coleman disappeared into his office and returned moments later with a sealed envelope. He asked that this be opened in your presence, should you attempt to access his accounts. Daniel's smile faltered. The letter was short, but it landed like a bullet. "To my beloved wife, Eleanor, if you're reading this, then I am gone, and I can only assume you are not alone. If Daniel is with you, ask him what happened on March 7th, in the cabin in Aspen, and before either of you answer, know that everything has been recorded. The footage is already in the hands of my legal team. As for the money, it's not here." Eleanor's hands trembled. Coleman cleared his throat. "There is no money in this branch. All assets were transferred days before Mr. Davenport's death, to someone else." Daniel turned pale. Eleanor's voice cracked. "To who?" Coleman looked her straight in the eye. "To a young woman named Clarissa Hall, Mr. Davenport's daughter." The room fell into silence, a silence heavier than guilt. Clarissa, Nicholas's daughter from a woman he once loved before Eleanor. A daughter he never publicly acknowledged. A daughter Eleanor never knew existed. Comenta abajo si alguna vez sentiste que te dieron la espalda. Eleanor couldn't breathe. Her world, her carefully built illusion, was cracking at the seams. "That's impossible," she murmured, her voice distant like someone waking from a dream-turned nightmare. Daniel stepped back, visibly sweating. "Who the hell is Clarissa? He never mentioned any daughter." Coleman remained composed. "She turned 21 last week, and as per Mr. Davenport's will, she is now the sole beneficiary of all his personal assets." Eleanor tried to stand tall, but the foundation beneath her was crumbling. She had traded her youth for status, her love for security, and now even that was gone. "This has to be a mistake," she insisted. But deep down, she knew Nicholas had won. Even from the grave, he had exposed her, not with rage, not with revenge, but with truth. Daniel stepped away from her, subtly inching toward the door. Eleanor grabbed his arm. "Don't you dare leave me now." He jerked his hand away. "I didn't sign up for this. I thought you were rich." The words stabbed deeper than any knife. "You said we'd be set for life." Eleanor's eyes widened. "So it was never about me." Daniel didn't answer. He didn't need to. In that moment, she realized she had lost everything and everyone because she had bet on the wrong man and played the wrong game. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this story. Outside the bank, paparazzi swarmed. News had spread fast. "Widow of tech billionaire denied inheritance," the headline screamed. But none of them knew the full truth. None of them saw Eleanor fall to her knees in the alley behind the bank, sobbing not just for the money, but for herself, for what she had become. She had sacrificed love, ignored kindness, and let a stranger crawl into her heart only to be used and discarded. She had destroyed herself long before Nicholas ever tried to protect his legacy. Meanwhile, across the city, Clarissa Hall stood silently by a marble grave. Her fingers ran across the engraved name of a father she barely knew. "Why now?" she whispered. A tall woman stood beside her, Margaret, Nicholas's old secretary. "Because he was afraid," she said softly. "Afraid you'd hate him. He loved you more than anything, but he didn't know how to face the past." Clarissa blinked away tears. "He never called, never wrote." Margaret nodded. "But he watched. He paid for your school, your mother's treatments, everything, and now everything he had is yours." Clarissa didn't smile. "I didn't want his money. I wanted answers." Margaret placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Sometimes the only apology life gives us is justice." Back in the Davenport estate, Eleanor faced silence. No staff, no lights, no Daniel, just echoes. She wandered room to room, hoping Nicholas had left something, anything for her. In the study, she found a book on the desk. It was one of his journals. Curious, she opened it. It wasn't about tech or business. It was about her. Pages and pages of his thoughts, observations, reflections, pain. "She was beautiful when I met her, but I broke her. I saw her heart dim. I didn't stop it. And now she's too far gone." Eleanor closed the book, trembling. In all the years she begged for attention, she never imagined he was actually watching, that he noticed her fall, that he too carried regret. But unlike her, he chose to correct his mistakes, even if posthumously. A letter fell from the journal. It was addressed to her. "Eleanor, I failed you, but you failed yourself. You stopped being kind. You let the mask become your face. I hope, without my shadow, you find yourself again, not in mirrors, not in lovers, but in silence, in truth. Goodbye." She cried like a widow for the first time. Suscríbete al canal para más historias como esta. Days passed, then weeks. Eleanor's name vanished from the media. No interviews, no TV specials, nothing. She sold her jewelry, moved into a modest apartment far from the mansion, and took a job as a receptionist at a clinic. No one recognized her, and maybe that was best. For the first time, she was invisible and at peace. One afternoon, a young woman walked into the clinic, elegant, calm, eyes sharp as diamonds. "Appointment with Dr. Chang," she said. Eleanor froze. It was Clarissa, the daughter, the heiress, the ghost of everything Eleanor lost. Clarissa looked at her, paused, and said softly, "You're Eleanor, aren't you?" Eleanor nodded slowly. "Yes." A silence fell. Clarissa finally said, "I read his journals. I know everything." Eleanor expected a slap, a scream, something, but instead Clarissa just added, "I'm not here to hurt you. I came to say thank you." Eleanor blinked. "For what?" Clarissa gave her a half smile. "Because if you hadn't betrayed him, I never would have known how much he tried to love me." Eleanor swallowed hard. The words hit her like a mirror. She nodded quietly. "Take care of what he gave you." Clarissa replied, "I will, but I'll do it differently." Eleanor watched her walk away, A ghost turned flame. A stranger turned justice. That night, Eleanor stood at her window, staring at the quiet street. No limousines, no cameras, just silence. And in that silence, she began to see herself. Not the woman on red carpets, not the wife behind a billionaire, not the fool who followed a lover to the edge of ruin, but the little girl she once was, who used to draw in the corners of her books and dream of becoming an artist. She hadn't picked up a pencil in years. She opened a drawer and found an old sketch pad. Her hands trembled as she drew her first lines, rough, unsure, but real. For hours, she sat in the glow of a desk lamp, drawing memories, faces, dreams, and somewhere between lines and shadows, she began to forgive herself. Because sometimes redemption doesn't come in applause or inheritance. Sometimes it comes in doing the thing you abandoned when life seduced you with shortcuts. Meanwhile, Clarissa wasn't interested in luxury. She transformed Nicholas's estate into a foundation, the Davenport Center for Innovation, offering scholarships, tech incubators, and support for women in STEM. "Build for those who were never invited in," she said during the opening ceremony. The world applauded, but she didn't smile for cameras. Her smile was reserved for the photo she kept in her office. Her father, young, holding a soldering iron, eyes full of hope. Dale like si alguna vez viviste algo así. Years later, Eleanor sat at a small local exhibit where her work, quiet sketches filled with emotion, hung beside other forgotten artists. A woman approached her. "Your lines, they feel like pain that turned into peace." Eleanor smiled. "That's exactly what they are." The woman handed her a card. "You should publish a book." Eleanor didn't need fame anymore, but she nodded, because maybe someone needed her story. Maybe someone, somewhere, needed to know that you can lose everything and still find yourself. The story ends not with revenge, but with revelation. Daniel, the charming assistant, had fled the country but was arrested in Switzerland months later for corporate theft. He didn't go down because someone hunted him. He fell by his own hand. Greed, like gravity, pulls hardest when you rise without roots. Eleanor, once humiliated, once hollow, now lived simply, with less noise but more truth. She sent a letter to Clarissa once, just one line. "Thank you for not hating me when you had every reason to." Clarissa replied, "I didn't save the legacy for him. I did it for the little girl he once told me about, the one who used to dream in pencil." And in that exchange, the past closed its eyes, not with bitterness, but with grace. Sometimes the silence of the humiliated speaks louder than the arrogance of the powerful, and sometimes the person who loses everything is the only one who finally finds peace. Comenta abajo si alguna vez sentiste que te dieron la espalda y comparte esta historia con alguien que necesita escucharla.